What do meteorites, stardust, rogue planets, and supermassive black holes have in common? They're all on this list, among so much more. Here are the top 10 concerning objects that are not from this planet. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have space energy. While a team of astronomers was working to map out the universe, which, for a second, imagine that's your job. What a task. Anyway, while they were doing this, they found a very mysterious object that is sending out bursts of energy every 20 minutes. This object is somewhere around 4,000 light years away, but despite this distance, it was sending out energy bursts that were so big that it was one of the largest radio sources in the entire sky. That's no easy feat. These energy bursts were occurring in a cycle where one would happen for 1 minute every 20 minutes before it would disappear for a few hours, and then this whole thing would repeat over again. There is nothing that we know of in this universe right now that would behave like this, so at the moment, while there are of course many hypotheses and theories, this is a mystery waiting to be uncovered. In our number 9 spot today, we have 2022 AE1. Just a few months ago in January, as the year began, scientists were watching an asteroid dubbed 2022 AE1 that became the riskiest one observed in over a decade. The initial observations of this asteroid placed it impacting with Earth on roughly July 4th, 2023, which would mean that there would not be enough time to deflect it, and this asteroid was large enough to do some real damage should it strike an area. Yeah, it was most definitely a cause for concern. There was a week where the moon outshone this asteroid, and so experts weren't able to see it and continued tracking its path, but once the moon was out of this phase, the risk seemed to have diminished. As of now, this asteroid has been taken off of the risk list, but who knows? It seems as though things can change quite quickly and unexpectedly outside the cozy home and protection of our atmosphere. In our number 8 spot today, we have a meteorite. On February 28, 2021, reports came pouring in from across the UK of an unusual streak of light that was seen in the sky. These reports were far behind the UK's Fireball Alliance though, as their cameras had already picked up the signal and they were already in the midst of estimating its landing site. That's right, this streak of light was a meteor, if the title didn't give it away. It's a remnant of our early solar system that has been flying through space at unbelievable speeds until it came down through our atmosphere and ended its long, awesome journey scattered in a bunch of pieces across rural Gloucestershire. Teams were sent out to be responsible for the recovery of the extraterrestrial material, which was found in a family's driveway as well as in a sheep's field nearby. This meteorite is a rare specimen known as primitive carbonaceous chondrite, which is said to contain materials that have been essentially unaltered since the formation of the solar system 4.5 billion years ago. The pieces of this meteorite can give us insights into the building blocks of the planets, and it can potentially give us clues as to how the Earth came to be this wonderful planet that possesses all of the resources necessary to sustain human life. In our number 7 spot today, we have King Tut's meteorite. So I actually learned about this one from Taylor, since he's the little history bee, and it is so interesting. Quite recently, researchers made quite the discovery that actually solved a mystery surrounding a dagger that once belonged to King Tut 3,400 years ago. An analysis of the king's weapon found that it was actually forged out of meteorite just outside of Egypt. That is so cool. This whole artifact and the way it was forged is one of the greatest mysteries in history. It is exceptionally unusual in the fact that it was made out of iron, which is a material that the Egyptians would not begin to smelt for another 500 years. This was just one of the many treasures that was found within his tomb, and one that continues to add to the incredible accomplishments of the ancient Egyptians. In our number 6 spot today, we have Tabby's star. This star, which has also been referenced as the WTF star, is an F-type main sequence star which is located in the constellation Cygnus about 1,470 light years away from Earth. This star is of particular importance because of the fact that it shows unusual light shifts, which includes a 22% dimming in brightness. Basically, from our point of view, something continually blocks the star, and it likely isn't a planet because a Jupiter-sized planet would only block about 1% of the star the size of this one, so what could it possibly be? There are a few theories out there surrounding this anomaly, but none are able to fully explain what is happening here. Some believe that it is some sort of uneven ring of dust orbiting the star, and others believe that the star's luminosity fluctuates depending on the efficiency of the heat being transported to its photosphere. These are just two of the theories surrounding this star, but there are many more out there, and at this point we just don't know. Hopefully though, the James Webb Telescope, which was launched at the end of last year, will be able to get a more clear clear picture of what may be happening over there on Tabby's star. In our number 5 spot today, we have quark gluon plasma. So basically, scientists believe that right after the Big Bang, there was this sort of really hot, goopy kind of a substance that was created, and it was made up of all different kinds of matter. Everything is moving around at the speed of light, it's hot, it's fast, and it's like cosmic soup. Okay, so experts at the Large Hadron Collider, which is the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator, wanted to recreate this space soup. You know, part of the whole trying to solve the mysteries of the universe's origins kind of thing. When they did this and got the machine to recreate this, they ended up recording the highest temperature ever. Apparently this soup was measured at 9.9 trillion degrees Fahrenheit. We obviously can all understand that that is insanely hot, but just how hot? Well, that is 366,000 times hotter than the center of the sun. In our number 4 spot today, we have energetic cosmic rays. Energetic cosmic rays are described as high energy protons and atomic nuclei that move through space at nearly the speed of light. There are some that originate from supernova, but there are some that originate from outside of our galaxy, and those ones have scientists wondering where they are coming from and what the source of them is. As these cosmic rays flow into our solar system, their paths are bent by the magnetic fields of both the sun and the earth. Upon impact with Earth's atmosphere, these rays produce a shower of secondary particles. Some of these particles do end up reaching Earth, but most are intercepted by either the magnetosphere or the heliosphere. The strongest cosmic rays are extremely powerful, and they can have energies of over 100 million times greater than a man-made collider. If you're wondering why you should care about this space mystery, it's because these things have the power to cause our digital systems to crash, and in our ever-increasing digital world, that could cause some major disruptions to our life. That is why we care about how many of their origins remain a complete mystery that has scientists stumped. And also because shouldn't we just know where these things that are bombarding Earth's atmosphere are coming from? Concerning is definitely the word I'd use, but honestly, what part of space isn't concerning? In our number 3 spot today, we have Pizarro. This is a weird little object that has been stumping scientists since it was first discovered in 1979. So basically, asteroids and comets tend to be fairly easy to tell apart. I mean, an asteroid is a solid lump of rock and metal, and you tend to find them more in the inner solar system, especially in the asteroid belt. And on the other hand, we have comets, which are usually more icy objects that travel from the outer areas of the solar system, and sometimes when they react with the solar radiation, they have those famous tails. So when Pizarro was first discovered, it was orbiting in the asteroid belt, so it was classified as an asteroid. Flash forward to 1996 and closer examination shows that it had a tail, like a comet. At first, experts thought that perhaps the tail was a result of some sort of collision, which is not uncommon for asteroids, but when the brightness and structure of the tail changed over time, it became clear that it was more of an ongoing process. Basically, this object showed signs and trademarks of both asteroids and comets, and it truly was a baffling discovery. Basically, the discovery of this object led to an entirely new classification: active asteroids. In our number 2 spot today, we have the fastest black hole. The biggest black hole that we have found so far is said to weigh about 40 billion times the mass of our sun, or about 20 times the size of our solar system. That's so scary. That's so big! Some of the outer, slowest orbiting planets in our solar system, like let's take Neptune as an example, orbits at a speed of about 165 Earth years. This huge black hole, the one that's 20 times the size of our solar system, yet it orbits once every 3 months. Do you know how fast that is? Neptune is considered slow at going 12,148 miles per hour. The outer edge of this black hole is moving at half the speed of light. The crazy thing about black holes this large though, other than how fast they're moving apparently, is that it is believed that they wouldn't necessarily kill you right away if you were to fall into one. In fact, it's thought that you would actually survive. You just wouldn't be able to escape to tell the tale because of that whole nothing escapes the black hole thing that they all have going on. In our number 1 spot today, we have supermassive black holes. Speaking of black holes, why is there a supermassive black hole at the center of most galaxies? We know that this is often the case, but we just can't quite figure out why. Every galaxy's supermassive black hole ranges in size, and we know that a stellar black hole forms from a supernova when the core of the star implodes, but we don't know how a supermassive black hole is formed. Because of the fact that the center of galaxies is where a lot of matter is boxed in, it could happen that supermassive black holes form from a cluster of regular stellar black holes, which all ended up merging together because they were in a tight confined space at the center of the galaxy. There are other theories as well, such as the possibility of these supermassive black holes being formed during the Big Bang. What I'm trying to get at is, we don't know how these things are formed, or why they are in the center of most galaxies, or even if there were supermassive black holes before the galaxies even existed. Maybe one day we'll find out, but this might just be one of those mysteries that is destined to stay a secret.
In the middle of an active war zone, a perfect silver sphere was caught spying on the US military in 2023. The Pentagon's UAP office released a still image and video clip captured by an MC-12 reconnaissance plane over Mosul, Iraq. It shows a metallic reflective sphere flying alongside the aircraft. This wasn't a static object, it was moving with a purposeful flight path, maintaining its position relative to the spy plane. It possessed no visible means of lift, no rotors, wings, or exhaust. And Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the former head of AARO, noted that these metallic spheres are actually the most common type of UAP reported by military personnel worldwide, appearing in almost every theater of operation. The object shows a high degree of specular reflection, meaning it is likely made of a highly polished metal or a glass-like material. It's not just the US, the Indian Air Force has been tracking ghost fleets that appear and disappear on command. In recent years, the Indian military has reported an influx of unidentified objects over sensitive nuclear and military sites. In May 2025, over the Chakri Dadri region, multiple metallic orbs were tracked by ground-based radar. These objects exhibited non-ballistic motion, meaning that they could stop and start instantly at thousands of miles per hour. Indian Air Force pilots scrambled to intercept, but reported that their onboard radars were jammed as they approached. Footage captured by thermal cameras on the ground showed the objects blinking in a specific sequence before splitting into smaller units and vanishing vertically. The Indian government has since increased its monitoring of these anomalous aerial phenomena, noting that the objects seem particularly interested in power grids and nuclear research facilities, often appearing just before or after major technological tests. A massive fleet of unidentified objects invaded one of the most protected airspaces in America, and the military was powerless to stop them. For several weeks in December 2023, Langley Air Force Base, home to the F-22 Raptor, was swarmed by a fleet of objects. These weren't small hobbyist drones, they were described as being up to 20 feet long and flying at speeds over 100 miles per hour at high altitudes. Despite the base being on high alert, the military could not identify the operators. The objects would arrive shortly after sunset and depart before dawn, moving in highly coordinated patterns that suggested a sophisticated mesh network of control. Even more baffling, they appeared to be immune to standard electronic jamming used by the base security. The Air Force even deployed specialized drone hunting aircrafts, but the swarm simply outmaneuvered them, often splitting up and regrouping miles away in seconds. This event led to a massive internal investigation regarding the security of Special Access Program's facilities. This is the gold standard of UAP cases: radar data from a carrier strike group, visual confirmation from 4 pilots, and a craft that toyed with our best tech. In November 2004, the USS Princeton tracked dozens of objects dropping from 80,000 feet, the edge of space, to the ocean surface in less than a second. They found a 40-foot long smooth white object hovering over a roiling patch of water the size of a 737. When Fravor tried to get closer, the object began mirroring his flight path, demonstrating instantaneous acceleration that ignored the effects of G-force. It then vanished, reappearing seconds later at Fravor's CAP point, a secret rendezvous point 60 miles away. And this proved that the object was not only faster than our jets, but was also able to intercept our secure military communications. Radar operators reported that the object jammed their radar systems with a level of sophistication that they had never seen before, even creating ghost targets to confuse the ships. To this day, the Nimitz encounter remains the most documented evidence of a craft that possesses 5 observables: anti-gravity lift, sudden and instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic velocities without signatures, low observability, and transmedium travel.
In our number 10 spot, we have radiation-proof bacteria. In 2002, Russian astrobiologists hypothesized that a bacteria here on Earth may have actually evolved on Mars. Deinococcus radioduranis is the most tough bacteria on Earth. It can withstand even the most extreme conditions such as cold, dehydration, vacuum, and acid, but the craziest part is that it is virtually radiation-proof. These little microbes can withstand several thousand times the amount of radiation a human can withstand, as well as more radiation than any other bacteria on Earth. You can even find this bacteria on the inside of a nuclear reactor. Scientists did an experiment to see how quickly this bacteria could build up a stronger radiation resistance by zapping the bacteria with enough radiation to kill 99.9% of it, and then leaving the remaining 0.01% to repopulate before zapping it again and repeating the process. It was concluded that it would have taken E. coli thousands and thousands of rounds to build up the same resistance that this hardy bacteria did in only 44 rounds. With this experiment, and based on the dose of radiation they gave each bacteria, it would take millions and millions of years to get even close to that amount of radiation they gave the bacteria in one cycle. Since Earth just doesn't carry that amount of radiation, it has led some scientists to speculate that since Mars is virtually unprotected and receives extremely high amounts of radiation, these bacteria may have evolved on Mars and gained their resistance in just a few 100,000 years, and that they may have been flung off of Mars by an asteroid and then brought to Earth on meteorites. It certainly is just a hypothesis at this point, but really, how else can we explain this random superpowered bacteria that is unlike anything else on our Earth? In our number 9 spot today, we have the USS Princeton UFO. What's a space list without the mention of a UFO sighting? This one took place in 2004. On November 14th of that year, the USS Princeton noticed an unknown aircraft of some sort that was about 100 miles off the coast of San Diego. For 2 weeks prior to this, the crew had been tracking a strange flying object that would start out at around 80,000 feet before extremely quickly dropping to hover right above the Pacific Ocean. Black Aces Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate of Strike Fighter Squadron 41 went over in 2 fighter jets in order to kind of scope out the situation, and when they arrived, they saw what at first appeared to be churning water, while there was an oval shape just below the surface. After this, a white oval-shaped object appeared above the water, but it had no markings on it. Like, we're talking no windows, nothing that would indicate an engine, no wings, and the infrared monitors on the jets didn't pick up any sort of exhaust. The commander and lieutenant commander tried to intercept this strange aircraft, but it very quickly flew away and reappeared on the monitor 60 miles away. Like, when I say quickly, I mean it was moving at 3 times the speed of sound and over twice the speed of the fighter jets. Like some Top Gun Maverick stuff. So faster than any kind of technology we currently have. We still don't know exactly what this was, but I'll tell you one thing. We definitely don't have that kind of technology. In our number 8 spot today, we have the USO. UFO to USO. Daryl Miklos is an explorer who took a deep dive following maps that had been put together by his friend and former astronaut Gordon Cooper. The map Daryl was using was initially made to help identify more than 100 magnetic anomalies in the sea. During one dive at a location within the Bermuda Triangle, where everything weird happens, he thought he was going to find an ancient shipwreck, but instead he found something that continues to stump researchers and Daryl himself. He came across a very strange structure that wasn't like anything he had seen before. This structure had long obtrusions which stuck out from the sides, and the whole thing was covered in coral, so whatever it is, it has been down there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Daryl has said, quote, "There's identical formations in 3 different areas, and they don't look nature-made, they don't look man-made. Certainly nothing I've ever seen based on my experience, and I have years of experience at doing this. We've identified multiple different types of shipwreck material. This doesn't match or look anything like that." People have started speculating that this structure may just be the remains of a crashed UFO. If it isn't that, then what else could it be? In our number 7 spot today, we have the Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism is an extremely mysterious discovery that has stumped researchers ever since it was found. This artifact was found 150 feet below the surface of the Aegean Sea in a shipwreck, and it is the oldest kind of computer ever recorded, as it was dated back to the 7th century BCE. The author David Childress likened the finding to if they had found a jet plane in King Tut's tomb. That's how bizarre this discovery really was. Due to the complexity and oddity of the finding, alien enthusiasts have believed for quite some time that it may have been technology that was passed down from some sort of superior being, so aliens. When the artifact was recreated in order to learn about the mysteries it holds, the mechanism was able to calculate the position and running time of each planet. How would they have been able to create this without the use of sophisticated astronomical tools? I'm not saying that this is like concrete proof of alien life, but I don't know. There's just gotta be something else at play here. In our number 6 spot today, we have fossilized microbes. This is a piece of evidence that came from 1996, and it is said to have come all the way from Mars. 25 years ago, scientists said that they had potentially found what appeared to be fossilized microbes in a lump of Martian rock. This rock was hypothesized to have come off of Mars after some sort of collision that the planet had, and then just casually floated around in space for some 15 million years before it ended up in Antarctica in 1984. You know, just the kind of thing that happens in space. Once the rock was found and analyzed, it was found that it contained organic molecules and small specks of mineralized magnetite, which can sometimes be found in the bacteria here on Earth. Once viewed with an electron microscope, there were signs of bacteria found. Of course, with anything like this, there will always be skeptics, and some have claimed that the magnetite wasn't that similar to those found in bacteria, and some claim that the signs of nanobacteria were just grown in a lab. I'm not a scientist, nor have I seen this Mars rock, so I obviously can't tell you who is telling the truth here, but what I can say is that neither of the people who believe this rock came from Mars, or those who claim that it's fake, can prove their point without any kind of doubt, so I'll just let you draw your own conclusions on that. In our number 1 spot today, we have stardust. Just a few years ago, researchers in Australia made a startling discovery. Ancient grains that were discovered inside of a meteorite that had landed inside of the country were studied, and it was revealed that they were actually grains of stardust. This dust was formed somewhere from 5 to 7 billion years ago, and it is now the oldest solid material ever found on Earth. These kinds of pre-solar grains are a very rare find. In fact, they're so rare that they're only found in about 5% of meteorites that have fallen to Earth. This is a fascinating discovery because having something like this really is the next best thing aside from having the actual star itself, and it gives insight into our universe billions and billions of years ago.
What happens when the world's most advanced drone fires a missile at a UFO and the object doesn't even flinch? In October 2024, an MQ-9 Reaper drone, the workhorse of US surveillance, was operating off the coast of Yemen when it locked onto a small, high-speed metallic orb. In a shocking escalation detailed in 2025 congressional briefings, the drone reportedly deployed a Hellfire missile. According to the sensor data, the missile appeared to strike or pass directly through the orb. Instead of a debris field, the orb continued its flight path with zero change of velocity or altitude. This incident is revolutionary because it provides rare data on how these objects react to kinetic force. Military analysts are still debating whether the object phased through the matter or possessed a field that neutralized the explosion. The footage captured in high-definition infrared shows no heat signature from the orb even after the alleged impact, suggesting that it does not use a combustion-based engine. If you think the 2004 Tic Tac was a one-off, the crew of the USS Jackson has a terrifying update for you. On February 15, 2023, while operating off the coast of Southern California, Navy Petty Officer Alexandra Wiggins witnessed a self-luminous Tic Tac-shaped object emerge directly from the ocean. This wasn't a lone wolf. The object was joined by 3 other similar crafts. They performed a synchronized near instantaneous acceleration, vanishing from visual range in a heartbeat. Wiggins testified in 2025 that these objects were detected on multiple sensors, including radar and sonar, confirming that they were transmedium, capable of moving from water to air without any visible transition or loss of momentum. The radar logs showed the objects moving at speeds exceeding 15,000 miles per hour once they cleared the surface. Perhaps most interestingly, the sonar data indicated that the objects moved moved underwater at speeds over 200 knots, far exceeding the capabilities of any known submarine or torpedo, yet produced no cavitational noise typically associated with high-speed underwater travel. It looks like a translucent creature from the deep sea, but it moves with the precision of a stealth bomber. Footage leaked in early 2024 shows a jellyfish-like object drifting over a US Joint Operations base in Iraq. This object is a nightmare for traditional identification because it remains invisible to the naked eye, but glows brightly on thermal sensors. The legs or appendages hanging from the bottom remain stiff as it moved, ruling out balloons or windborne debris. More chillingly, military sensors tracked the jellyfish as it moved over a body of water, submerged itself for 17 minutes, and then shot back out of the water at an angle that would destroy any known airframe. Throughout the entire event, the object's internal temperature remained a constant cold signature. Intelligence analysts pointed out that the object appeared to be cloaked in a way that fooled standard visual surveillance while being unable to hide its thermal footprint from high-end military-grade FLIR, which is forward-looking infrared cameras. There's a whole fleet of them. Look at the ASA. One of the most famous pieces of military evidence ever released, the gimbal video was captured by a Navy FA-18 Super Hornet over the Atlantic. The pilot's radar showed a formation of smaller objects, which the pilots call wedges, following a larger disc-shaped craft. As the pilots watched on their radar screen, the objects perform a smooth mechanical tilt, rotating nearly 90 degrees against a 120-knot headwind. There are no wings, no tail, and absolutely no heat plume from an engine. This rotation is a key observable of UAP technology, suggesting that the craft rotates to reorient its gravitational propulsion field. According to the pilot's own audio, the craft was fighting a massive headwind, yet maintained its position with surgical precision. This suggests that the object was not floating on the air, but was instead anchored to a specific point in space through unknown means. Skimming the waves at impossible speeds, this object was caught in a lock that it never should have been able to outrun. Captured during the same mission set as the gimbal, the Go Fast video shows a small white oval object skimming just above the ocean's surface. The weapons system officer can be heard shouting with excitement when he finally gets the sensor to track the object. While skeptics initially argued that it was a slow-moving bird, subsequent analysis of the sensor's metadata and the jet's altitude showed that the object was moving at a high velocity with no flight control surfaces. It maintained a perfectly straight trajectory despite the turbulent air near the ocean's surface, a feat that would require constant micro-adjustments in any conventional aircraft. Detailed trigonometry performed by independent analysts using the on-screen data suggests that the object was roughly the size of a large beach ball, yet it maintained a speed that would cause a bird or a balloon to be shredded by wind resistance.
In our number 10 spot, we have Dragonfly 44. This is what is called an ultra-diffuse galaxy, and it is located in the Comma cluster. This galaxy is of concern because of some interesting observations that were made in relation to it back in 2016. Basically, this galaxy was first discovered because of the influence it is having on our Milky Way galaxy. Astronomers noticed some strange sort of ripples in our galaxy and subsequently realized that this was due to the pull of Dragonfly 44's gravity as it orbited around our own. Of course, once it was realized that this galaxy was the culprit, experts started looking into the galaxy more, and that is when it was realized that this galaxy is actually quite dark. In fact, we can only really see this galaxy due to 4 bright stars that shine out of the otherwise dark, gloomy galaxy. This has led to the hypothesis that this galaxy must be largely made of dark matter. This is extremely interesting because not only is dark matter one of the most pressing mysteries of space, but this galaxy was found to be made up of 99.99% dark matter. Some even say that this galaxy shouldn't even really be able to hold itself together with so few stars. This is all to say that this galaxy is extremely interesting, and with further investigation and research, it may just be the key that helps us understand what in the world dark matter really is and what it's made of. In our number 9 spot today, we have Cosmic Disappearance. Some sort of unidentified thing that is larger than anything in our known universe is sucking portions of the Milky Way away. I know, it's terrifying and it definitely is concerning, considering it's the place that we all call home. This discovery came in 2009 when researchers first found a cluster of galaxies moving at extremely fast speeds speed towards a small area of sky. This area is located between the constellations of Centaurus and Vela, and whatever this whole thing is, it has experts completely stumped as to what it could be. For now, it remains a space mystery that has been dubbed Dark Flow, so that it can sit on the shelf with the other terrifying space mysteries like dark energy and dark matter, whatever those are. In our number 8 spot today, we have Tycho. This is what is being called a zombie star. This frightening name comes from the fact that this star was once a white dwarf, which is basically what is left over after a star exploded, but its mass was not enough to become a neutron star or a black hole. What's different about these zombie stars, however, is that they have gobbled up a bunch of mass from another nearby star, which then leads to them exploding all over again in what is called a Type 1a supernova. These blasts are insanely luminous and bright. Some even say that they have the light of 1 billion suns. This is all to say that they are insanely interesting objects and events that exist in the universe, and they are also thought to be helping scientists study what the heck dark energy is. In our number 7 spot today, we have Oumuamua. A few years ago, scientists all agreed that we had found an object that was flying through our solar system, and they called it Oumuamua, and it was widely agreed that it was an interstellar comet that had swung out from around another star. Upon closer examination, however, they realized that something was propelling it and causing it to accelerate, and this is when the debate started because they just don't really know why. Avi Loeb, who's a Harvard University astrophysicist, proposed the idea that rather than a comet, this could be an alien probe that is being pushed by a light sail, which is a very wide but extremely thin piece of material that accelerates by being pushed by solar radiation. Other scientists didn't agree with this and instead said that it's possible that hydrogen ice could have melted off of the object in a way that would mimic a rocket engine or something of that nature. Avi then wrote in a study that hydrogen ice is too easily heated and it would have melted off long before it reached our solar system. I guess all in all, we just have to wait it out while the scientists debate and gather more evidence to really know what is going on behind this one. In our number 6 spot today, we have the wandering moon. The moon is apparently slowly, sadly, moving away from Earth. When I say slowly, I mean slowly, as it's at a rate of about half an inch a year, but still, when we're talking about our cosmic best buddy, the moon isn't only the thing that lights up our night sky. The moon plays a vital role to our lives here on Earth due to its great companionship and its gravitational pull. The moon's gravity is what causes the tides of our ocean, so without our moon, who knows what would happen to our marine ecosystems. The moon is also responsible for the axial tilt of Earth and how it stays in relatively the same place. Without the moon, we either wouldn't have any tilt at all, or we would be tilted all the way. This would mean that we would either have no seasons, or some of the most extreme seasons any of us have ever seen. While it doesn't appear the moon is going anywhere soon, sometimes we just have to keep an eye on her to make sure.
Next up at number 5, a molten object. Maybe it was aliens, or maybe it's some cursed artifact from outer space, but either way, no one had any clue what they'd found. Back in 2016, an inexplicable molten object fell from the sky in Siberia and was actually caught on film. 2 YouTubers said they received the footage from a witnessing Russian man and wasted no time posting the video for all to see. Whatever it was covered in green flames, an unrecognizable white foamy substance, and grabbed the attention of local firemen who can be seen attempting to put out the giant and strange green flames. Many online viewers were quick to try and figure out what exactly they were witnessing, and some said it was probably a satellite that fell onto the Earth, but some swear they saw a UFO hovering over Turkey just 3 days prior and believe the object to have been the crashed extraterrestrial ship. Maybe the aliens were trying to send us a message? Let's just hope it was a crashed satellite. Coming in at number 4, fireballs. There are few things that make us worry about the end of days more than giant fire orbs raining down from the sky and terrorizing our planet. Well, in September of 2019, it seemed like just that was happening in Chile when huge and mysterious flaming objects lit up the sky, cascading over the largest island in Chile, horrifying the locals. The fireballs plummeted to the earth and caused 7 bushfires across the island, though luckily no one was injured. Initially, most assumed it was meteorites crashing down, but after a few days inspecting the site, no traces were found at any of the 7 locations. Officials were confused by the findings, as the only other logical explanation would be space debris, but that as well seemed to have been ruled out by many. So if it wasn't a meteorite and it wasn't a rogue piece of space debris, what could have fallen from the sky? Could it have anything to do with an unknown space civilization? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Coming in at number 3, metal shreds. Long before Chile saw the flaming balls of fire crashing down, Argentina was met with an equally terrifying phenomenon. Back in 1991, out of nowhere, giant shards of flaming metal appeared glowing in the sky. The ominous showers appeared to be darting down towards the planet, terrifying the locals. This metallic rain turned out to be fragments from a Russian space station named the Salyut 7, which to this day is still considered to be one of the largest human-made objects to re-enter the atmosphere. Now, of course, engineers made many attempts to guide the fragments toward the Atlantic Ocean, but as the station was in a low orbit to the planet, they were not really able to properly redirect anything. So soon the 88,000 pounds of metal were crashing down to the Earth, and although no one was injured, it certainly terrorized all who witnessed it. Coming in at number 2, Vladimir Komarov. Infamously known as the man who fell from space, Vladimir was a famous Russian astronaut, or cosmonaut as they were called during the Cold War space race. Back in 1967, he embarked on a crazy mission that, although he was completely trained to complete, was ultimately rushed. Allegedly, the spacecraft had a multitude of structural issues, and despite engineers warning the Soviet officials that the craft was not ready, they continued with the mission as planned. Vladimir took off and made his way up into the eternity of space, and even executed 16 orbits around the Earth. But something went awry with his mission, so he was instructed to make his way back down to Earth. However, things went south upon trying to re-enter the atmosphere when his parachute would not engage, and Vladimir plummeted back towards the Earth, crashing in a horrific explosion. Rumor has it that while he was plummeting to his fate, he was screaming at the Soviets for forcing him to do this mission. And while he may not have been something that originated from space, it was certainly cursed from the very beginning of its journey. And last up in our number 1 spot, the Roswell incident. Back in 1947, a huge metallic object crashed down on the Earth, causing a major uproar for conspiracy theorists across the globe. Now, normally I'm not one to jump on the conspiracy wagon, but I don't know how anyone can look me in the eye and tell me that this is not the spitting image of a flying saucer. I mean, come on. Now, here is where it gets crazy. After the dust from the initial sighting settled, the Roswell Air Force released a statement admitting that they had found a flying disc, but then quickly retracted that statement, saying instead it was simply a conventional weather balloon, and have stuck to this story ever since. But this change in description caused many to believe the government was covering up valuable information. Then, in 1979, Lieutenant Jesse Marcel, a key figure in the whole debacle, was interviewed for a documentary about the incident and admitted that despite what they told newspapers in 1947, that he truly believed it was an extraterrestrial entity that was found that day, and that the government had ordered him to keep quiet. Now, that isn't suspicious at all. So what do you guys think? Government weather balloon or top secret alien spaceship?
Number 10. For 8. Struck by a space rock. Alright, we've got 2 stories here, and you can either think of them as the result of a curse, or karma, or cosmic coincidence, but either way, these 2 women had a bad day. In 2001, Lottie Williams was exercising in a park in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when she looked up and saw a great ball of fire in the air. It was a rocket coming back towards Earth. She watched it approach, and as it got larger in the sky, she expressed her worry to her friends, but then it broke up into pieces and it was no longer visible to her. A few moments later, she felt what she described as a tap on her shoulder, and then something fell to the ground. This small blackened piece of metal had fallen from the rocket and just grazed her, and it could have been a lot worse, but she walked away being the first person to be hit by man-made space debris. But another woman was not as lucky. On November 30th, 1954, Ann Hodges was napping in her Alabama home when a piece of meteorite crashed through her roof and struck her in the side. It left a 3-foot wide hole in her roof and also left a massive bruise on her thigh and hand where she was hit. Luckily, the damages were only surface level, and though she went to the hospital the next night, it was because of her stress, not the injury. But if the space rock had been a few inches to the side, Ann would not have lived to tell the tale as the first person to be struck by a meteorite. I'm not sure if she's cursed with extremely bad luck or has really good luck. I'll leave that up to you. Number 7. Skylab. Launched by NASA as the first American space station, Skylab was cursed with issues from the moment it launched. The station strapped to a Saturn V rocket sustained severe damage during its deployment, including the loss of the station's micrometeoroid shield and one of its main solar panels, requiring it to have the first ever repair to an object in space, which is pretty cool. But it was again hit with problems when one of the pieces destabilized from orbit earlier than expected and crashed back to Earth. But it doesn't stop there. Due to increased solar activity, Skylab actually ended up falling towards Earth a year earlier than it was supposed to. There was supposed to be a shuttle mission to boost it back into orbit, but the shuttle wasn't ready in time. In an international media frenzy, the Skylab crash was everywhere. People had shirts with targets, contests were made to bring pieces of the wreckage for cash prizes, and people waited for the show. Due to a 4% calculation error on re-entry, the station did not burn up as quickly as expected, and pieces fell into Australia only 300 miles from Perth in an almost completely unpopulated area. Man, talk about a crash and burn. These scientists missed the mark so many times it's impressive the thing even hit Earth. Number 6. 300 million year old machine part. In 2013, a Russian man named Dmitry was adding coal to a fire when he noticed something strange. A shiny piece of metal was sticking out of the rock, and when he broke open the piece of coal, he found what seemed to be a piece of a metal bar with teeth, like a piece of a gear. When analyzed, it was found to be made of aluminum with about 3% magnesium, an alloy that is not generally produced today. Not only that, but further examination shows machining marks, implying that it's a man-made piece, and it's similar to those that we may find in a modern microscope or other small machinery. But no one can explain how a seemingly man-made part appears in a piece of coal that was 300 million years old. So was this thing a remnant of a past unknown civilization? Maybe something from a time traveler or alien? One explanation is that it could have fallen to Earth from a meteorite all that time ago, but it wouldn't explain the fact that it seems man-made. This little hunk of metal continues to baffle scientists today.
In our number 5 spot today, we have the mysterious gap. Basically, a new analysis by scientists at MIT of ancient meteorites found something new and super interesting. In the early solar system, there was what is referred to as a protoplanetary disk of dust and gas that rotated around the sun, and eventually it coalesced into the planets that we know and love today. So this new study and analysis suggests that this sort of mysterious gap existed within this disk somewhere around, I don't know, 4.567 billion years ago, and it was in an area near where the asteroid belt is today. The reason this gap is mysterious is because it isn't quite clear what the cause of this gap was. There are a few possibilities, including Jupiter, during the time when it began to take its shape. Because of its extremely large gravitational pull, it could have pushed gas and dust towards the outskirts, which then would leave a gap in the developing disk. There are other possibilities, but regardless of whatever caused this gap, it is said to have likely served as a cosmic boundary that kept material on either side from interacting with each other. In our number 4 spot today, we have a blitzar. So normally when stellar black holes are formed, they're the result of a large star exploding into a supernova. This then has the core normally collapsing into either a neutron star or a black hole. Blitzars are a hypothetical type of neutron star where they spin so fast that if they slow down, they'll collapse right into a black hole. I do understand that they are theoretical at this point, but some researchers believe that these stars might be an explanation for fast radio bursts should we find that they in fact do exist. In January of 2015, there were 7 different events that experts thought could be attributed to blitzars, but it is thought that they actually might occur once every 10 seconds in our observable universe. The magnetic field around a blitzar would clear anything prior to it turning into a black hole, which means that no nearby material would fall in upon the initial collapse, which means that there is no burst of gamma rays or X-rays, which is usually seen when other black holes form, and this is exactly why, if they do exist, they are hard to detect. Should we come to find concrete evidence of their existence, these guys would prove incredibly valuable insight into the formation of black holes. In our number 3 spot today, we have Hoag's object. Okay, so there are different shapes to galaxies. That's not the weirdest thing in the world. You know, we live in a spiral-shaped one, it's beautiful. There are other galaxies called ellipticals that are more like oval-shaped, but one galaxy in particular, which is now called Hoag's object, is truly like none we've ever seen. This galaxy has a yellow core, and this core is surrounded by an outer ring of blue stars that are much younger than the core, but in the middle between the two, there's just nothing, and researchers are completely stumped as to how this could have formed. The galaxy was first discovered in the 1950s, and since then, again, there is one leading theory as to how it could have been formed, but it still isn't concrete. Basically, this leading theory suggests that perhaps a small galaxy sped through a larger disc-shaped galaxy, which then created this bizarre situation, but the problem with this theory is that there are no signs of any nearby galaxies that could have served as this sort of bullet in this scenario. If that happened, it also would have sped up the core of Hoag's object, but we can observe it as moving quite slowly, so that also rules out this theory. There have been other galaxies discovered that have some similar characteristics to this one, but none share all of the qualities seen in this very bizarre galaxy. In our number 2 spot today we have Haumea. Back in 2017, this dwarf planet passed between Earth and a distant star, which allowed scientists to get a better look at it, and thus they were able to discover some new findings. Haumea sits in an area beyond Neptune that is called the Kuiper Belt, and it is actually one of the largest objects inside of the belt. Before the new discoveries in 2017, we already knew that this dwarf planet was weird. I mean, it has kind of a weird elongated shape, it has 2 moons, and its day only lasts 4 hours, which means that it's the fastest spinning large object in our entire solar system. It is thought that its fast spin might be responsible for its weird shape, but either way, scientists were quite surprised in 2017 when they realized that this strange planet actually has rings. This means that Haumea likely had some sort of collision, and probably not too long ago, relatively speaking. This collision likely happened somewhere from 1 billion to several hundred million years ago, but the search for the origins of these rings brings a whole new mystery to the dwarf planet. In our number 1 spot today we have magnetars. These space things are actually a type of neutron star, but what makes them different is that they have this insanely powerful magnetic field. Like, we are talking 1,000 times stronger than a regular neutron star, or about 1 trillion times stronger than the magnetic field that Earth has. That means that these type of stars would have enough magnetic power to wipe every credit card on Earth, even from a distance halfway to the moon. They're the most magnetic stars in the entire universe. This is all very cool and interesting, but it's also important to note that if you were to venture within about 600 miles or 1,000 kilometers of one of these stars, you would die. Very quickly. The magnetic field would destroy your body. It would tear electrons from your atoms, which would then basically turn you into a cloud of monotonic ions, or single atoms without electrons. This is all to say that next to black holes, these are one of the most bizarre objects in the entire universe.
Number 10, the Khaden meteorite. While it may not have been the biggest meteorite to crash into the Earth, it certainly raised many questions once it was here. On December 30th, 1980, what looked like a fireball was seen in the sky hurling its way towards the Soviet military base. Now, upon impact, they discovered a surprisingly small stone weighing only about 4 pounds, but it was what was inside the stone that caused a commotion. Inside the meteorite was a wide range of incredibly rare and unique minerals, many of which are not found in nature, causing quite a bit of confusion and debate around the stone's origins. Some scientists believe it originated from the Martian moon of Phobos, but no one really knows for certain. While there have been several meteorites from Mars to land on Earth, if suspicions are true, the Khaden would be the first Martian moon rock to be found on Earth. And who knows what that could mean. Next up at number 9, a piece of the moon. As fate would have it, a piece of the moon made its way into the desert of Morocco, and in 2014, it was discovered and sold privately to a collector. The moon chunk weighed about 6 pounds and was extremely rare, as very few pieces of lunar material have been known to crash land onto the planet. Now, as cool as this seems, scientists have discovered that moon dust can cause huge health risks, and long-term exposure is highly toxic and has the potential to even cause death. So whoever has this piece of moon rock better have it sealed tight, because it could be the end of them. Next up at number 8, Tomanawos. To understand the craziness of this meteorite, we have to rewind a few billion years. Well, 4.5 billion years to be exact. Meteorites are usually made of iron and nickel. These iron and nickel atoms were formed inside stars that eventually exploded, sending the elements rocketing across the nebula. Over time, the elements were forced together to create what we call protoplanets, which were the first planet-like orbs of the solar system. Now, 4.5 billion years ago, Tomanawos was at the core of one of these protoplanets, but at some point in time likely collided with another protoplanet, sending huge chunks back into space. Then, 17,000 years ago, it crashed down into the Earth and landed on an ice cap in Canada. It wasn't discovered until thousands of years later, and by that time it had made quite the journey down to Oregon. The 15-ton rock caused quite a stir and even a lawsuit when in 1902 a man tried to steal it from the indigenous people and charge others to see the strange and mysterious space rock. But the joke was on him, as the Oregon Iron and Steel Company actually owned the land where he'd found the meteorite and sued for its return. Whatever it was, there was something about this meteorite that drew people in. And who knows, maybe it really was cursed. Next up at number 7, a strange black object. In July of this year, Australian farmer Mike Miners was doing his usual morning survey of his farm when all of a sudden he spotted something that caught his eye. There in the distant part of the grasslands was a large jet black object measuring roughly 9 feet and sticking straight up out of the ground. Unsure of what was going on, he took a closer look at the object and eventually decided to call the Civil Aviation Safety Authority to see if they could help. Once he was on the phone with them, they quickly urged him to call NASA directly. Eventually, it was discovered to be a piece of space junk, likely from the SpaceX Dragon capsule, but many conspiracy theorists didn't seem to buy this answer, believing it to be some kind of remnant from a UFO. And to tell you the truth, I have no idea if those conspiracy theorists are losing their minds or if they are onto something, but anything that is falling from outer space will always freak me out. Coming in at number 6, the microscopic diamond. There are many things people can expect to find falling from the sky, but tiny microscopic space diamonds would not be at the top of my list. Back in 1969, an unexpected meteorite came crashing down into Mexico, which led to one of the biggest manhunts trying to find all the scattered fragments. One of the strange finds were small diamond fragments containing, now stay with me here, isotopic signatures of materials formed prior to the existence of our solar system. Which, listen, I'm not really blessed with much of a science brain, but essentially it's really frickin' crazy what they found. The origins of the diamond is up for debate. There are 2 theories about how they came to be. The first is the formation inside a giant star that long ago exploded in a supernova, and the second is from an asteroid impact in space. But either way, it's an incredibly strange find that raised more questions upon its discovery than it answered.
In 2019, a guy in Crimea named Gennady Borisov looked through a telescope he built himself and spotted something fuzzy moving across the sky. It turned out it was actually the second known interstellar object and the first one that looked like a normal comet. Telescopes all over the world locked onto it. A lot about it seemed pretty normal. It had a tail, shed dust, and behaved like comets do when sunlight heats them up. But the strange part was the amount of carbon monoxide inside it. Observatories in Chile picked that up and reported levels way higher than what we usually see in comets from our solar system. That meant it was very likely that it formed in a much colder place than where our comets are born. And because it acted like a regular comet, scientists had more time to study it than they did with something like Oumuamua. More on that later. They watched it break apart as it got closer to the sun in early 2020. They analyzed its dust, its gases, even the direction the fragments spun. Pretty amazing this comet came from a totally different star system and was discovered by a guy with a homemade telescope, so they named it after him, 2I Borisov. I'll admit that the Hypatia stone doesn't look super exciting, but it's probably the most unique pebble ever discovered. It was found in 1996 in a patch of desert glass in southwestern Egypt. For years, it sat in collections without much attention, but when researchers finally took a deeper look at it, they realized just how weird this thing is. The chemistry inside it didn't match anything you'd find on Earth. It didn't match any known meteorite either. Some of the minerals inside are extremely unusual. The ratios of certain elements aren't what you see in typical space rocks. Even the carbon inside it is strange. Instead of being mixed with silicon or other common stuff, parts of it seem almost unnaturally pure, more like industrial diamond or graphite. In 2018, a research team in South Africa published results showing that the stone might contain material that formed before our sun even existed. And there's still debate about exactly how the stone formed, but the most plausible theory is that it formed out of a supernova billions of years ago. In 1974, the Betts family was checking out damage from a brush fire on their property in Jacksonville, Florida, and they found a perfectly smooth metal sphere lying in the grass. It's about the size of a bowling ball and weighed around 20 pounds. They took it home, and things only got stranger. They noticed it rolled around in ways that didn't make sense. See, if someone nudged it, it sometimes rolled back the other way. When they put it on a table, it would stop right near the edge instead of rolling off. The family said it made little ringing noises too, and sometimes gave off soft vibrations. Reporters eventually came to the house to interview the eldest son, Terry Betts, about the weird find. The US Navy also examined it. They said that the metal matched high-quality stainless steel used in industrial machinery. That explained the material, but it didn't explain the movement of the spear or the strange sound it would make. And it wasn't just the family saying this. There were multiple witnesses who said it rolled in ways that almost felt deliberate. To this day, we've never gotten a definitive explanation for this case. Next up is another mysterious object called the Bugha sphere. Now, I'm just gonna come out and say that this is a really sketchy case. There are some very obvious AI articles about this thing and supposed images showing this metallic sphere with these alien-looking etchings on it. Supposedly it can fly. I don't know, it seems a little too insane not to be like headline news everywhere, and my BS detectors went way off, but I mean, there is some truth to this story. Maybe there's some exaggeration going on, or maybe it is as crazy as it sounds. I don't know, but there are a lot of articles about this thing. Anyway, back in March, a metal sphere dropped out of the sky near Bugha, Colombia. It crashed into some woods on a farmer's property. People nearby heard the impact. When they went to investigate, they found this big, smooth, almost perfectly round object sitting in a crater. It didn't have any seams, as you'd normally expect to see on satellite parts, for example, and scientists from the Colombian Air Force and universities took a look at it and found that it actually wasn't a single piece of metal and had layers inside it made of different alloys. Some of those layers looked like aerospace materials, but others weren't so easy to identify. Couldn't say for sure where this thing came from. The condition of the sphere also raised some questions. Most space debris burns up or breaks apart on the way down, but this thing was, even though they didn't know what it was perfectly round and seemingly intact. So the military made sure to be very cautious about handling it. They didn't know if it was pressurized or radioactive or what. And right now, the object is still being studied.
Number 8, we reach our number 1, the Hypatia Stone. The Hypatia Stone is one of the single greatest astronomical discoveries that we have ever made. Found in the Sahara Desert by Ali A. Barakat, this is no ordinary meteorite, but one that contains the remnants of a rare type of supernova. Some have even described it as a supernova in a bottle. Named after the ancient mathematician and astronomer Hypatia, who was the first female scholar in her field to have her life and accomplishments recorded, overcoming sexism in the process. Scientists are still learning more about its origins. It's believed that the stone was born in what is known as a Type 1a supernova, a rare kind of supernova where a dying star or white dwarf begins to leech energy off of a nearby star and regains energy in the process. These so-called vampire stars circle each other until the white dwarf has recovered enough energy to reignite the stellar reaction and explodes in a massive cloud of dust and pure energy, shooting things imbued with strange elements out into the ether. Measuring the metals found inside the stone is how we verified that it came from this kind of supernova, and that it crashed to Earth nearly 28 million years ago after being launched through space by the explosion. Having a supernova in our hands has helped us answer so many questions about the physics of space, but if you ask me, if there was one interstellar item that could have an alien curse, it's the rock that contains pieces of a rare supernova. Sounds like something an alien from Doctor Who would need to power their death machine or something.
When the Tunguska explosion flattened a massive section of Siberian forest in 1908, nobody found a crater or many big chunks of a meteorite, and that was incredibly strange. For a long time, it was a total mystery. Decades later, they discovered tiny clues in the area, microscopic metal spheres and grains of melted minerals. These tiny spheres are made of nickel and iron and whatnot, and basically materials that point to a space rock entering Earth's atmosphere, heating up and exploding apart before hitting the ground. That would explain why trees were flattened in a huge circle, but no crater formed. Researchers collected these particles during trips to the site in the 50s and 60s, and again in later studies. Some were found inside old tree resin, stuck in place from the moment they landed. The melted mineral grains also showed temperatures high enough to vaporize rock, which lines up with a mid-air explosion. These little spheres don't solve every part of the Tunguska mystery, but they do give us one solid piece of physical evidence. Something from space exploded over Siberia that morning. Next on the list, we have angel hair. It sounds super bizarre, and it is, but there are documented cases where Tons of these thin white fibers have drifted down from the sky, and they disappear once you touch them. People describe it like sticky spider webs that melt away in your hands. One of the most famous events happened in France in 1952. People saw objects in the sky, and then watched long strands falling all over the town. Kids ran through the streets grabbing handfuls of it, but the fibers broke apart and vanished. Another major case happened in Florence, Italy in 1954. A soccer match actually stopped because the sky filled with these strands floating down onto the field. Some of it was collected and analyzed, and the samples looked similar to spider silk. There have been similar reports scattered across the world throughout the years. The common theme is that the fibers almost always disintegrate before anyone can store them properly. Sometimes scientists chalk it up to ballooning spiders. If you've never heard of that, which I hadn't until today, pretty cool. So this is when spiders climb to a high point, lift their back and release tiny strands of silk, and then when the breeze catches it, they get pulled up into the air. The threads almost act as a kite, sometimes carrying them a few feet, sometimes miles. That's how spiders will end up on ships in the ocean, on rooftops, places that seem impossible for a spider to reach. Also might explain why Spider-Man was always shooting his webs and it didn't look like it was attaching to a building, but somehow he was swinging and maybe it was just the air catching him. That's all the way back to the 60s show though. But anyway, I digress. The amount of this so-called angel hair that falls in these rare cases makes it hard for a lot of people to just chalk up to spiders. So at this point, there's still no definitive explanation for this. Miners in South Africa have been finding these strange little stone spheres for years while working in ancient rock layers around Klerksdorp. Some are perfectly round, others look like flattened discs with little grooves running around them. The rock layers where they're found are billions of years old. You look at these spheres, they really do look unnatural. They're smooth, they have symmetry, and some of the grooves wrap around them seemingly too perfectly, like someone carved them with an electric tool. That led to years of speculation about what they were, but when geologists studied them closely, the explanation ended up being a natural process that just happened to create shapes that look artificial. The spheres form through something called concretion. Minerals build up at a central point over an insane amount of time. The grooves appear because different layers hardened at different rates. In December 2012, people near Polonnaruwa in Sri Lanka saw a fireball streak across the sky. And not long after that, strange rock fragments started turning up on the ground. Researchers collected the pieces. It became very clear that this was not Earth rock. It had a melted outer layer, like it had been cooked coming through the atmosphere, and it had unusual minerals inside. Researchers put the fragments under a microscope. They said they saw tiny shapes inside the rock that looked like diatoms, which are microscopic algae with these hard glass-like shells. That claim became kinda controversial because other scientists immediately said the samples could have been contaminated after they landed, or that they didn't handle the samples carefully enough and material from Earth could have gotten mixed in. So there was a lot of back and forth, and we still can't say for certain if this microscopic algae was caused by contamination of the samples or if it was in the rock the whole time. Extraterrestrial algae, life from outer space. In 2019, astronomers in Australia were scanning the sky with a powerful radio telescope when they noticed giant circles out in deep space that nobody had seen before. These things were huge, some wider than entire galaxies, but you can't see them with normal light. They only show up when you look at the sky in radio waves, which is why they stayed hidden until recently. Eventually got the nickname odd radio circles, or orcs, because that's exactly what they look like. Strange, giant glowing rings floating out in space. They don't look like anything else. They're not the leftovers of a supernova, they're not a galaxy, and they always show up as pretty much perfect circles. As more sky surveys were done, more orcs started appearing. Some of them had faint galaxies sitting dead center inside the circle, like something happened around that galaxy a long time ago and sent a shockwave outward. Others didn't have anything obvious in the middle at all. Scientists have tossed around a few ideas, but none of them explain every circle, and since you can't see them in visible light, they're hard to study. When astronomers in Hawaii spotted Oumuamua in October of 2017, they didn't know what to make of it at first. They tracked its path and realized it wasn't looping around the sun like a normal space rock. It came in from deep space, swung past Earth, and continued on. It didn't have a tail like a comet, but it still drifted a little off course, almost as if something gave it a tiny push. Usually that kind of movement means ice is melting and releasing gas, but that wasn't the case. It also wasn't shaped like anything familiar. It was long and skinny, kind of cigar-shaped instead of round. And there was a ton of speculation at the time, with pretty prominent scientists like Avi Loeb saying there was a chance this thing, which was the first confirmed object from another star system to find a past us. He said it may have been an alien probe. Unfortunately, we only had a short window to look at it before it faded out of view. All we know for sure is that it wasn't from here.